right. We're returning. You know, I did a show last week, 2 weeks ago, about how the Chinese have published openly in a series of articles in all of their major state-owned media publications. Not one, not two, 5. They've published their plans and their projections for how the U.S. could fall to nuclear war. Let me tell you something. That's only the tip of the iceberg. That's only the tip of the iceberg. Putin came out and warns that the NATO missile pact is over or endangered, and that he warns his military to, quote, prepare for war. EU Times. It's an article from the EU Times. I'll post it in the comments or in the description section of the YouTube channel. It's up on our Facebook and our website. Their Ministry of Defense is publishing or circulating a this is in the Kremlin now, right? This is a report that is making its way through the Kremlin. And they are literally being told by their executive offices, and Putin's at the head of that, to prepare for war. The media in the United States of America absolutely refuses to talk about this. Putin canceled a presidential order that had set up a group to look at and figure out different ways to establish a working cooperation with NATO in the sphere of missile defense, or in the area of missile defense. Do you remember the comment from President Obama to Medvedev, who was the predecessor to Putin, in which he said, after my next election, I'll have more flexibility? The people who actually watch the international drama play out, they see it. They smell it. They probably can't believe what they see, but it's there. This Ministry of Defense report states that Putin's, quote, move for peace against the U.S.-led NATO alliance is made to show the West that he will retaliate in force, quote unquote, against what he calls President Obama's, and this is his quote now, insane plan for global tyranny. Last week, if you're not aware of it, they ran a nuclear missile drill in which they fired off 4 nuclear missiles. Now, this was a drill, so they, I'm assuming they weren't live missiles, but they launched 4 nuclear missiles. All of it was monitored by U.S. intelligence agencies, and the 2 of them were intercontinental, or ICBMs, and 2 of them were submarine-launched ballistic missiles. If you don't smell and see that for what it is, this was no drill. This was a show, a flexing of muscle. He's also ordered 2 of their strategic nuclear bombers that are visiting South America right now, excuse me. He's telling them to stay on indefinite patrol because they may be needed to strike the United States. China issued a very, very clear, with maps, right on the front page headlines of all of their state-run media, their plans for a proactive strike, nuclear strike, on the United States of America. That is an overt threat. America is mortally wounded, flailing about in the water, bleeding out, and the sharks are beginning to circle. Got to ask you, if the United States were to, or the planet, because of a failure of the United States economy and the dollar, and we know that China is actively working to make the yuan the world's reserve currency. We know that Russia and China collectively are part of the BRICS nations. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And there are many others that are getting on board, including Australia and a bunch of other countries, New Zealand. They're trying to unseat the dollar as the world's reserve currency. And now OPEC, and I shouldn't say OPEC, Saudi Arabia has broken off diplomatic relations with the United States of America over Syria and other issues. So the petrodollar, which is the agreement that the United States has with Saudi Arabia to protect their monarchies in exchange for all OPEC countries demanding payment only in U.S. dollars. In other words, everyone's got to convert their currency to the U.S. dollar, props up the dollar as the world reserve currency. Now, with diplomatic ties ended, our enemies are literally showing up in droves. In the event of a financial collapse, and at $17 trillion and more borrowing going on, I mean, these guys are so out of control, and $17 trillion is only the tip of the iceberg, folks. If you look at what we really owe, the unfunded liabilities, it's $150 trillion, conservatively speaking. We have zero hope of paying that amount of money. It exceeds the asset value of the planet. So when the United States goes into collapse, who do you think is going to fight over her vast assets, treasures, and resources, including the human resources? North Korea just got help from Russia and China to build EMP weapons, electromagnetic pulse. An electromagnetic pulse weapon is, for all intents and purposes, a slightly modified nuclear weapon. Detonate one of those somewhere over the Midwest in the United States at about 150 to 200 miles above the ground, and the entire nation of the United States would be thrown back into pre-electricity 1850. All your fancy toys, all your fancy medical gadgets, all your fancy gear, gone. All communication, all command, gone. Who do you think is going to be banging on our western shore? And then on the other side of the fence, who do you think is going to be banging on our eastern shore? You got China to the west and Russia to the east. And you got 300 million Americans caught in the middle. If you don't think they're wargaming this stuff right now, you're hopelessly naive. Hopelessly naive. Where we stand today is at such a dangerous place for America. I mean, I'm not sure that we can escape our fate unless we as a nation stand and arise. Unless we as a nation arise and be counted. Be fearless and fierce and courageous in the restoration of our nation, back to the control of the people. Unless we are willing to speak out, even when we are shaking in fear. And even then, I'm not sure that we have the fortitude, the wisdom, and that we haven't been so indoctrinated over the last 100 years that we can save ourselves. I can only tell you this. In the event that this nation collapses into economic, which would necessarily be followed by a military junta dictatorship, which is, for all intents and purposes, my belief of where this is all headed. And it will be controlled by a man who has, for all intents and purposes, no backbone. And the wolves will move in for the kill almost immediately. We will find ourselves in a global World War III. There's a lot of people out there who have been saying this for a long time. They're always given short shrift by the media. They're classified as nutcases, tinfoil hat. Well, you know, with all due respect, you can sit there and look at all of the evidence in front of you. And I grant you, there's no smoking gun. But you've got enough circumstantial evidence to make this a serious question for discussion. To make a serious controversy and a case out of where we are. I don't know what American people are waiting for. I suppose the only thing I can say is that for 235 years, we've had it so easy, so soft, so good, that we have become our own worst enemy. And the enemy in D.C. and in each of your state capitals, they're all capitalizing on that. You're marching into slavery. I'm reminded of the people who literally just meekly and mildly marched into these camps where the fence overhead announced where they were going. And they hoped beyond hope that it wasn't their worst fears come to reality. My goodness. The arrogance and the hubris to believe that America can't end that way is stupid. It's foolish. Our founders told us over and over and over and over and over again that tyranny would be the result of our failure to be a watchdog over our nation. That our refusal to be involved in and participatory in the daily defense of liberty and freedom would be our undoing. And as sure as the shoes on our feet, here we sit today. I don't know where that leaves us, because I and my listenership and the others out there who kind of smell the smoke, I don't know how we rouse a critical mass. I don't get it. I don't understand how we can drive the behavior of millions of Americans while there is still time to do so peacefully. You know, those of you who listen to the program on a routine basis, you've heard me use that quote from Winston Churchill. It's part of that story called "The Plan to Take Back America." And it's from Winston Churchill, and I've read it a number of times. I've heard people, comment on it that they understood the implications of what this is. Still, if you will not fight when you can do so and you have a chance of winning. I mean, we do have a chance to do this peacefully without bloodshed. But Americans apparently want to wait until we have to fall to the second side of this thing. The alternative. I don't get it. Still, if you will not fight for the right, when you can easily win without bloodshed, if you will not fight when your victory will be sure and not too costly, you may come to the moment when you will have to fight with all the odds against you and only a precarious chance of survival. There may even be a worse case. You may have to fight when there is no hope of victory, because it is better to perish than live as a slave. Well, with all due respect to the people out there who disagree with my position, I'm going to tell you what I think. I think we are already at the point where we cannot avoid some bloodshed, and it will already be costly. We have not fought for the right when we could easily win without bloodshed. We have not fought when our victory was sure and would not be too costly. And so we have come to the moment when we will have to fight with all the odds against us and only a precarious chance of survival. And if we don't hurry up, we will have to fight when there is no hope of victory, because it is better to, in the words of Patrick Henry, have liberty or death. I mean, realistically, folks, we have allowed this to go so far. It's like having a rabid dog. And you know the dog has got rabies, so you chain it to the tree. And the hope beyond hope that it's going to survive. It's going to make it through. And as the dog descends into madness, you sit there and continuously say, in a state of denial, say, no, 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 he's going to get better. Well, one day you're going to walk out there and the dog is going to bite you. We have allowed our leadership to become like rabid dogs. Insane. Literally. Insane behavior on their part. Their quest and their need for ego and power and money cannot be satiated. There is a true level of evil that is at the heart of that. And that's an evil that cannot be filled. That's a void, an addiction that cannot be satiated. There ain't enough. There's not enough dope to fill that need. That cloying, desperate need for more. And they will not be satisfied until American blood is spilled. Woe to this nation when that happens, because then the sharks will sense the end is near. You've been listening to America's Voice. You can find us on the web at americasvoicenow.org. You can also find us on our Facebook page. Please join it, like it, help us out with that. You're also helping yourself, and you're also spreading the word to your own sphere of influence. You never know who you've got liked on, who is a friend of yours on Facebook that will hear or see a comment that we post or a story and come awake. So help yourself, help your friends. Hit the like button on Facebook. It helps us to spread the word. I don't care that, this is not some ego thing. I couldn't care less. But our goal is to spread the word. You can also find us on, Facebook is facebook.com/America's Voice Now, and our channel on YouTube at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. We'll be right back.